Hey, what's up, fam? Eden Zero, Chapter 1, newest series by Hiro Mishima. You're gonna hear it here first. Chapter 1, fantastic. And don't believe me? Don't believe me that I've read it? Bam, look on the screen. Here is a panel that has not been put out online. I've got it here first for you. You're gonna find out the first chapter of Eden Zero here on my channel before anybody else's. So keep that in mind, and it's going to be like that hopefully for the future. And I'm gonna pretty much give my synopsis of the first chapter here. All right, I hope you're ready. All right, let me just bring up real quick. Let me get my finishing pieces ready. All right, okay. So the series starts out, very first page starts out with if you've seen the pictures of the spread of the characters that has the main character Shiki and the lead female Rebecca with some of the characters off the side, and you get that kind of woman in the background. And on the left is you get a kind of like a robotic skeleton guy, and one of the other characters is kind of like a short orange dude with a wizard hat. He kind of looks like I believe is Cabo, the Grand Magic Games judge, and they're both with the main character Shiki as a child, and he's looking up. And he's kind of like looking at the shooting star. And from what I can tell, the main character is linked to this skeletal robotic guy. And I believe they refer to him as either a Demon King or the Demon King, some form of villain, I believe, some form of big bad guy that seems to have maybe raised the main character. And for those who don't know, who haven't read Hiro Mishima's other works, he grew up without a dad, and he likes to put that kind of the value of fatherhood in his series, because his dad died when he was young, and he wants to make sure that his characters can kind of feel and see the impact of how important your dad is to you, because he had like hard glory up without his dad, and he didn't know why, and then he finds out later, spoilers, that his dad had to stay away on purpose for their own good, as well as you kind of had it for a way for Fairy Tail with Natsu. His whole goal was trying to find his dad, but he didn't know his dad was kind of hidden away and doing that for his own good. I won't give too much spoilers, but in case you haven't read those, or maybe you just started, you just stumbled across this video. But so he seems to be chatting in with this Demon King guy, and seems to be best friends with the small little pinkish robot guy who looks like that guy Cabo. This little guy wears a green and yellow wizard outfit, kind of. He wears like a little wizard hat, kind of like Cabo as well. But the series kind of starts out with the main character Rebecca and her cat. I believe his name it's either Smile or Smiley, from what I got from the Brazilian website. It's one of the places it's going to launch, because it's launching in 5 languages officially worldwide, all on June the 26th. And the Brazilian website seems to have put out the synopsis with the main character name being Shiki, the main female being named Rebecca, and the cat, the cute little psychic, being named. It's either Smile or Smiley. I'm not 100% sure, but they land on this island, but it's actually it kind of shows it as starting out on an island. It's like this castle kingdom in the middle of the ocean, but it's actually a specific planet. It's the planet Grand Bell, where apparently it's apparently only the robots were. It seems to be some form of abandoned amusement park. And when Rebecca gets there, she's greeted by a ton of different robots. And like this first robot that she talks to kind of like looks at her and then shakes his head a whole bunch, sounds off their trumpet. All these robots kind of freak out because it looks like they haven't had a person show up in a long time, because of their amusement park seems to be abandoned, and they seem to lack a purpose, but they seem just excited that somebody shows up. For some reason, Rebecca gets like a pair of like little kitty cat ears, look like a cute Neko girl. It looks, from what I can understand, it's supposed to be kind of like Disneyland, and so, but I guess instead of, you get the mouse ears, you get the cat ears. And the cat smile gives her kind of like this little quest paper, and then they go to look for something that turns out to be this giant, long-necked robotic cat that they kind of freak out at first, but she kind of like talks about how cute it looks, even though it's got like steam coming out of its mouth and it's got these razor sharp teeth. But it's within that moment that the main character Shiki kind of crashes down and shows himself. I'll give a little glimpse at what I'm talking about. One second. Just a quick glimpse. Just a quick glimpse of what I'm talking about. That's it. All right, you get a little glimpse. I won't give the whole thing. All right, but you kind of see a little bit of the main character from his personality from within the first few images of him showing up. But the first kind of panel that you see him in, other than when he drops down on this giant cat robot, is the image from the sketches that Hiro Mashima kind of put out a few weeks ago, of where the main character is sitting down, cross-legged. He's got longer hair. He seems to have a wrench in his hand. He drops it, and then, funny enough, the Rebecca, when she kind of like looks at him and she got knocked back from the impact, she has like her legs opened with her skirt on, and then she immediately like closes her legs the first thing she does before she like asks who he is. And Shiki's drawn with kind of like this I think it's like a water brush ink kind of style. Like if you remember how they drew, Hiro Mashima drew Hades' magic once he took his eye patch off with like that weird watermark look. It's kind of like the same way with that, where it looks like it's brushed on with a really old paintbrush. And what's funny is he doesn't seem to understand that she's human. Within the first kind of like couple seconds, he goes over and like smells her, and then he touches her face, and then touches her boobs. So you get a pretty funny fan service scene right off the bat, which I chuckled at. But he seems to not like humans. He seems to have some problem with other humans. Maybe it's why he lived with these robots. We'll probably find out his backstory later on. But funny enough, when he's laying there and Rebecca comes over, she likes. I can't tell if he kind of like rolls over, and then he's looking up. He's looking like right up her skirt, where she like stomps down on his face. He doesn't seem like doing it in a perverted way. He just kind of seems like he just doesn't really care, because he doesn't seem to like humans. But he looks like he's trying to be friendly, but while he's doing it, he looks like a psycho, just from like just being some dude who kind of showed up in the woods, and he's got like this long, like like tamed hair and like bandages all over. But she runs off, goes back to the Grand Bell like little village with the robots, and he's already there because he's friends with all the robots. They're like his family. He grew up with them. He understands them a lot, and they seem to have kind of like this pack mentality. You know, you have like an animal, and you know, maybe one of the some of the animals kind of are okay with you and they accept you, so the other ones kind of like ease up on you as well, just because they know from these ones that you're safe. And you kind of have that with Shiki. Is the other robots already met Rebecca. They seem to like her, so Shiki's like, well, I kind of trust you, whatever. And while they're kind of like having a little party, and Rebecca's getting drunk, there's a kind of like an archer robot, like a little pointy-nosed archer robot, who's like spying on them, and goes and reports back to this like mechanical king, this robotic king who's hooked up to all these wires, and who seems to have some form of setup powering the kingdom. Maybe like he's doing something that is linked up to the whole Grand Bell town. So he seems to have not only importance as the king, but also important as to the kingdom itself. And I'll show a little bit of that. Like you can see like what I'm talking about. Like he's hooked up to all these like cables and wires. You only get a little bit of. There's one other bit I'll show, but it's not this one. You'll see what I'm talking about. But he doesn't seem too happy that there's another human in town, and it looks like they've accepted Shiki. from being close with the that kind of skeletal robot guy. He seems to get too tired and then just falls asleep wherever, and he like crushes this table that he was sitting at when he passes out, just slams through it. Kind of a good way to another way to show that he's got some superhuman strength. I don't know if they've said that he's I think they've said he's human, but at the same time, I think they said he wasn't human. I think he's some form of alien. I don't think he's going to be human at all. I think that's my guess, actually. From reading the rest of this chapter, I think he's some form of alien because they. I'll get to my reasoning for that in a little bit. But they, while he's asleep, actually, Rebecca cuts his hair. She cuts his hair kind of short and get that little sparkly effect that you see in anime when something's like nice and pretty. And this is like where people have compared it to the hairstyle of Gray Fullbuster from Fairy Tail, but if you look, and from his name, Shiki was the main character of Monster Hunter Storm, which was the, I think it was like two or three volume series, might have been 4, I think it was a 4-volume series Hiro Mashima did for the Monster Hunter series where they were hunting, I think it was a Meowgaluna, like this big, like starlight dragon that like had like crystal wings and like its whole underbelly looked like a starry night sky. But if just look up Monster Hunter Storm or Monster Hunter Oreji, which is it's pretty much spelled orange but without the N, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Like compare the two, they look more similar than Shiki and Gray. But when Rebecca wakes up, she's kind of tied up to a stake, like like a burning stake for. Kind of like if you watch Game of Thrones, like how Stannis burned his daughter. Like that's not a spoiler. That happened years ago. Kind of like or like how they burned witches. Her and her cat Smile are tied up to like these wooden poles over some kindling. It looks like they're gonna burn her because they don't want to. I couldn't figure out the whole reason for everything because it's all still in Japanese. I'll work on translating it later when I can, but. He seems to not like her, and the rest of the robots seem okay with it because the king seems okay with it, and you kind of get this part with Shiki. Shiki likes his fellow robots, but he seems to have made friends with Rebecca, and he kind of remembers this whole bit that his the guy. I think he refers to the skeletal robot as his grandfather. I'd have to double check, but. While he's trying to argue with the king takes off his robe, and you see like this his big full body like robotic build. He's got these big arms. He has like this crystal in his gut, and he kind of talks about how like Shiki is one of them. He's a member of this robotic crew, and how this girl isn't going to see the light of tomorrow, and he doesn't want her here. But Shiki seems to have some form of flashback to. What his, I'm assuming what he refers to as his grandfather told him about. When you make friends that you don't want, your true friends won't try and make other friends cry or something along those lines, because the guy talks, the robotic king talks about how no humans are their friends, no humans are their enemies, but Shiki gets pissed off from this, and while the other robots knock him down, while he's kind of like thinking about his friendship with the robots, but thinking at the same time he's made this friend with Rebecca, that what they're doing is against what they should be doing, and how they can't be his friends if they're forcefully like making his other friends cry. Again, that's a little bit of a rough translation and kind of a rough reading. It's probably taken along those lines. It's definitely something about being pissed off at them making her cry in a way, and you kind of get this really cool panel with while he's down in there, like, these robots are like beating him. His hands start to glow, and he kind of like does this like stand uppercut, knocks all these robots back, and he's got like these symbols on his arms. Like he's got these like they're like rings right at the base of the finger, and then lines that go down the top middle of the finger, and then like these circles on the knuckles. They kind of look like Brains markings from Fairy Tail. If you remember that the leader of the Araxion Sace, they were the sealings that kind of kept him in, kept Zero kind of sealed away within him. And from what I can kind of tell from the just like a rough description of his power, and he calls it the demonic current, and they kind of describe the ether, like kind of like if you remember Fairy Tail, they have the ether nano, which is kind of like magic particles that just kind of exist in the air. And it looks like they're kind of doing the same thing because Hiro Mashima said this was going to be a magic fantasy kind of base series, but it looks like it also has, it's got some sci-fi, but it looks like it's going to be more of a kind of magic tech. Like it's tech. They're going to probably use like mechs and like lasers and like energy swords and stuff like that, but instead of being like, here, let's give the long scientific explanation, they'll just say it's kind of powered by magic. It's just really advanced magic components. And it seems like his power kind of is like how Acnologia was like this raw magic dragon, so he could consume and control just magic in general. That the main character can kind of intake and control raw magic within the air, kind of. From what I can understand, he calls it the demonic current, and like I don't know if they're talking about the guy who raised him, like the skeletal guy, or something that has to do with the main character. They kind of say like something of the Dark Age, like maybe his power is some really old type of ability, like a more old-fashioned one before, like maybe all this high-tech existed. Kind of like in Fairy Tail, you have lost magic. Maybe this is some form of old-style power that maybe got washed away when they were developing like space travel and high advanced technology, like with robots and stuff. But the guy, the king, is like shooting these bullets at him, and he's saying like no human is going to be able to just defy the king and move and withstand, move faster than these bullets, withstand his attacks and fight against him. And Shiki's like, I am and I'm going to, and charges up power in his fist, and he uses what he calls the name of his techniques, kind of like Natsu Dragneel had, fire dragons, and then the techniques is Shiki has what he refers to as demonic current, and then his first attack is called the heavy fist, where it looks like he charged up. From what I can understand, he charged up his punch with just a ton of energy, and maybe made it way stronger, and you get this really cool kind of crash panel, kind of like like how Guildarts, when Guildarts does his crash magic. There, I'll show it right now. The way that you get like when he fell and he like shattered up that whole village, or he uses his crash on the ground and kind of splits it up into these cubes. As you got that with Shiki, and like splitting up this this whole like little kingdom, and like causing this really big crater within it. And I'll show you right in 1 second. 1 second. Let me put a little bit extra in there. Wait, 1 second. Let me just let me fix this. Let me put this in there, and then save it. Let's see. There we go. As you see like this really cool crater going down it, and from what I can tell, I've been able. I tried to make out like his power, just from that initial like little bit talking about like the demonic current, and saying I think they said something about him being raised by like the Demon King, who I think is that skeletal robot guy, something along those lines. But also it looks like he can use the demonic current to fly, like kind of like hold the magic in the air in one place, and with that, I don't know if it's flight or hovering, but you kind of see him. I think it's flight, because you see him kind of fly away and go towards the ship where Rebecca arrived on, and you see while he's being chased out, all the robots are like swinging their fists and like swinging like sticks at him, like get out of your shoe, kind of like they'd scare off the Frankenstein monster. But the little robot with the wizard hat that was his friend, kind of like smiling and more of waving at him than kind of trying to shoo him away. You can tell he's you could tell that the main character is kind of sad, but I actually kind of don't think the robot was even really felt anything that he left. I think that he's just always smiling, but I think that's what the main character kind of feels, is that these have been robots and they've only felt a certain way because they've been programmed. But it's pretty funny. They get in the ship, and then Shiki's like, where the hell are we going? He thinks that they're just stuck on an island, but what she shows them is they're actually in a spaceship, is the picture that I'm showing right now, and that they're going to another planet. And it seems like the planets, at least this one, it looks more like kind kind of like in Kingdom Hearts, how they had like, you know, like, hey, here's the Mulan world, and like the worlds are all kind of like big, shown as big floating islands. Maybe that's just like the game thing, or and like if you actually went there, it would be like an old planet. But this is just what's shown for the manga right now, and he's like flabbergasted looking out at space, and this is where you get to see like for those who have looked at the other Raws. Here, I'll show you the one I'm talking about. This one's online, so you know, this one is a special Rex original that you get to see the space dragon, like the space mech dragon, and I showed it next to the let me make it bigger. I showed it next to the little happy robot from chapter 330 of Fairy Tale on the cover. It says like Fairy Tale in space, and I was like talking to something like foreshadowed, bitch. Look, that I mean they look similar. I mean you gotta give me that. They definitely look similar. But anyway, back to this is let me fix my my image. Oh god, my picture is huge again. Let me fix this real quick as I'm talking. Is you kind of see like back with the little robot guy that Shiki was friends with. It's like talking to himself. It looks like he's has some form of sentience, some form of sentience, and how even as a robot he was able to kind of feel compassion and care for another without actually having a heart. So you got a little bit of touching moment there with him and all these other robots. But it's revealed that the king robot wasn't just sitting on the throne because he was the king. Is within a flashback talking to the skeletal robot guy, is that he knew that the amusement park planet that they're on, because their whole thing is they were on the literally like an amusement park planet, and that was like their star attraction from what I've made out. But with people abandoning it and it kind of just being, you know, robots with a limited supply of energy, they were eventually going to die anyway. And they were trying to figure out a solution. They didn't come up with a solution, but the robot king kind of sitting on that throne with all the cords connected to him was prolonging the inevitable shutdown. But the skeleton robot guy kind of is like looking off in the distance and saying how the boy Shiki is going to change the universe, and how he's going to go on to do great things. But with once that kind of happens, the robots start to shut down because they run out of power, and you see like the chair where the king was sitting, and you see where it says EN 0%, you know, 0% energy. All robots on the planet Granbell have ceased function, and you can tell Shiki's crying. He's a little bit beat up over it because, you know, they were his friends and family, but at the same time he wants to go out and see the universe and see all these other planets now that he knows they're there. And they say what I believe is his goal in this chapter at the last page, that his goal is now that he's going out into the universe, that he wants to make 100 friends or something along that line. You know, it's by Hiro Mashima. There's going to be some talk about friendship. It's a shonen, you know, there's going to be friendship talk. But Eden Zero, Chapter 1, reviewed here first by me, Rex to the Hero. You're going to get this kind of stuff on my channel first. I'm going to try and keep things done before anybody else on stuff by Hiro Mashima. Not just Eden Zero. Also, there's doing a Fairy Tale sequel as well as a Fairy Tale spinoff. You're getting all the stuff from Hiro Mashima, and he's going to be directing the next season of the anime, the final season through the Alvarez arc, and maybe even more after that. So it's going to be directed by him and done in a way that he can adjust it to more of what his overall vision for the arc was. So it should technically be canon over the manga. So I'm going to follow that as well, do reviews on all of that, and you're going to find it here first. That is Rex the Hero, R-A-X space T-H-E space H-E-R-O. Like, favorite, subscribe, give me the thumbs up. Tell me what you think of Eden Zero, what you thought of this review. I was able to give a summary right now, but I can't give you all the images. Once the images are available to be put out online, once the raws are put out at the appropriate time, I can tell you I will have this translated and ready for everyone. But even with reading it online illegally for free before it comes out officially, support the official release. Buy the digital copies. Buy if you have a subscription to Crunchyroll, you can read your manga there because there's this license through that this new series is licensed through them as well. So once it gets dropped in all those languages, you're going to be able to read it at Crunchyroll before it comes out on on any other websites legally. So I hope you liked my review of the first chapter of Eden Zero. It looks like it's going to be awesome. You had Hiro Mashima doing Rave Master, his first smash hit series, which is more about like these magic trinkets and the hero's journey. And then you had Fairy Tail, which is more about like you had like battle mages and this concept of family and this character growing from kind of like this scoundrel to like this a little bit more of a soft anti-hero throughout it. Not like a kills everyone anti-hero, but does whatever he wants kind. Not the same. Obviously, he doesn't go around murdering everybody, but it's still kind of in a he doesn't fight good or evil, or he doesn't fight for good per se. He fights specifically for his guild with Natsu. But now you have magic tech. We're going to go out into space. We're going to see all these different things. And this is Hiro Mashima's opportunity to do something amazing because, from what I understand, someone talked about on his Twitter that he wants to connect all of his series into one universe, and he could do it now. He can just say like Rave Master takes place on a certain planet, Fairy Tail takes place on a certain planet, Monster Hunter Storm takes place on a certain planet, Monster Soul takes place on a certain planet. He can have Shiki go and meet them all, and then have like team ups and like crossovers, and he could turn this his series into kind of like the first Japanese equivalent to like Marvel and DC Comics, where you have all these things kind of intertwining all in the same universe, all these characters that throughout the years now are all in one mashup. And I think there's a lot of potential in this. And I'm going to follow this series. I'm gonna make sure to try and get the spoilers and the raws for Eden Zero before it comes out, before any other reviewers do it. I hope you enjoy it here from me, and I hope you check out my other videos. I don't just do manga, I also do comics. I try and do news on them, but I do also do stuff like a lot of other mainstream shonen, My Hero Academia, Black Clover, One Piece. I do stuff on some like smaller series. I started doing one for Mimesis and Wang Tang Cheng, the Yoro Hunter, which is about crane machines. Crazy enough, fun series. But yeah, so I'm gonna wrap up this video. Like I said, like, favorite, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, and a thumbs up if you want to get told by first from me of content on Eden Zero, as well as Hiro Mashima's other work, and maybe some other manga that I can try and get a little early for you guys before it comes out. But thank you very much. Bye.